All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Michigan edition. Jeff here. Dan, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, buddy. Doing very good. How about you?
Truthfully, as far as football goes, the best I've ever been, and I mean that 100%. This is the best football mood I've ever been. Both of my favorite teams are playing really good football, and Michigan playing the best football of my fandom. Lots to like, man. Lots to like. Lots to talk about. Lots to brag about. Um, let's start here. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan. They do. I don't want to say the impossible, but what felt like impossible. They go into Ann Arbor at home. College game days there. It's a big environment, and they upset Ohio State in a really fun game, 42-27. Michigan owned the ground. Wasn't going to take no for an answer. They rushed the ball for 297 yards. They limited Ohio State throughout the entire game. C.J. Stroud did have what I would consider a big game if you're looking at just the stat line. I mean, he went 34 of 49, 394 in the air and 2 touchdowns. Sacked 4 times, which was a big key factor in this. But I think at the end of the day, Michigan pulls off a monumental victory and easily the best victory in a long time, and easily Jim Harbaugh's best victory overall. What'd you think?
Well, I thought it was. I thought it was an ass kicking. This was awesome to see. Kind of just still surreal because didn't expect 42-27. I gave my predictions last week. And I thought if Michigan would win, it would have been like 38-35. But if Ohio State would have won, I said 40-29. So kind of close, but the opposite direction. The best part about this for me is it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't decided on some bogus call at the end of the game, via official. It wasn't a last minute play. Wasn't a struggle to get there. Michigan pretty much dominated the whole game. I think they were down, 10-7 at one point, and after that, they didn't look back. We talked about last week with Andrew on the preview. Ohio State, there's no secret. They got 3 NFL wide receivers on their team, and I would be happy to have either one of them three on my Raiders team, hands down.
Yeah,
Those guys were going to eat. So I know he threw for 394 and 2 touchdowns, but the dude was under duress all day. They made them one dimensional. I can't complain here, man. Like, didn't line it up in the passing game, stat wise, but again, we didn't have to. We took care of business on the ground, and Hassan Haskins had arguably one of the best, single-handed rushing days of a Michigan running back versus Ohio State in school history, outside of Tishmaga Patuka in 1995. You know, I'm still in awe. I Now that Indy was on the line in this game, I'm kind of I'm not over this win, but I'm ready to get to Indy now because we had something to play for. If we didn't play for Indy last Saturday and it was just to beat Ohio State, I would probably still my mood would probably still be where the seconds or moments right after the game ended. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still kind of there. But I just, like I said, now that we're playing and got something on the line again, um, I'm kind of like a split right now. But again, I'm still ecstatic. This was just not expected to happen, and so and I'll pass it back here in a second. But I think mid third quarter, and Michigan is still throwing counter punches or just playing the pipe still. And I'm trying to not get overexcited, trying to stay grounded, try not to get too high and then get brought down again. And I think probably with about 7 or 8 minutes left in the game, tears of joy started creeping in because I'm like, holy shit, this is about to happen. But anyways, yeah, man, that's pretty much the initial feeling there.
yeah. I mean, It it was as good of a performance as we've played all year. Like talking about having to play your best game, Michigan 100% played their best game. Um, Matter of fact, they played really good football heading into this game. They had their first 4-0 November since 2003. Uh, that alone just shows you. I mean, ask any football coach at any level, high school, college, NFL, what month would you love to dominate? They would all tell you November. Every single one. It's championship football, and Michigan played championship football. And I think the thing that's like, obviously there's so many things about the game. Like right before the game had kicked off, we're tailgating, through the morning and having a good time up until kickoff, and me and Josh start to head up towards the big house to buy some gear, and you see the swarms of people heading in, and the snow's falling. And I looked at Josh. I was like, "This benefits us. This is 100% beneficial to us." And college game day is literally right next to us, and there's people flooding everywhere, and I'm screaming at every Buckeye fan I could see, Michigan by a billion. And as we start to get settled into the game, and we come out hot, we lead for a little bit, they counterpunch, and then we immediately counterpunch back. We go in the half with a very small lead, but it seemed like, wow, we came to play. We're in good shape here. And then in the second half, we never seen a third down. Not a single third down. They only threw 4 passes the entire second half. It is the most dominant performance I've seen Michigan ever put on anyone, let alone our top rival. The thing that I think I've just gotten, I don't even know how to like say it. Like it's still so like surreal. We're national news. The Michigan football team is literally national news right now. Everyone is talking about us. You can't listen to talk radio with sports and not hear Michigan, Ohio State still being brought up, or how Michigan is. And now all of a sudden, all the sportscasters want to talk about Michigan and how they're back and how, first off, I'm super happy for Jim Harbaugh. Some of the outside comments, though, John Madden texted Jim Harbaugh and said, "This is as good of an offensive line performance as he's ever seen." Matt Leinart, coach at USC, or not coach, sorry, quarterback from USC, won a Heisman there, said the Ann Arbor, Michigan Stadium on Saturday was the greatest environment he had ever seen.
So did Joe Klatt.
Thank you. I was going there next. Joe Klatt, who calls every noon game in college football, watches a lot of them. He says it's the best environment he had ever seen, that he'd ever been a part of. And as soon as that clock hit triple zeros, man, they weren't going to keep those fans off the field. 100,000 people fit on that turf, and I'm sure anybody that's listening to this that's a Michigan fan, I'm sure you've seen the videos of the Mr. Brightside playing and Pump It Up playing, and boy, oh boy, I had 4 or 5 different times where I kind of just got really emotional, during the end of the game, and even on the ride home as I started to drive and listen to different interviews. And there's a lot to get into. I'll pass it back to you, but one thing I want to say to anybody that's listening that maybe doubted Michigan, you're allowed to get back on the bus. You're allowed to get back on the hype train. You're allowed to jump back on the bandwagon. But I want you to privately apologize to this coaching staff, this team. There's been a lot of negativity around this team for the whole season. It was gross, because this was a good football team all year long. And we doubted them in ways that they didn't even deserve to be doubted. Like, I understand you assuming we're going to lose to Ohio State. I get it. I understand that. But, man, this team was ridiculed for playing good. Like, literally blowing teams out on the road. Blowing teams out on the road, and we're ridiculing them. I'll pass it back to you, but this win in Ann Arbor's, it eclipses any victory I've ever seen of any football. It eclipses Super Bowl victories. It eclipses everything. It meant the most.
Yeah, absolutely. This was by no means an ugly win, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, we dominated, and we dominated the line of scrimmage. And the way that the Michigan offensive line was manhandling the Ohio State D line, I just mind blowing. Hassan Haskins. Credit to him. He was still finding the holes. He was still being physical. He was still being explosive. But that offensive line was putting those guys on their ass. And I think it was the last touchdown. Not even 2 minutes left in the game, or just like 2.5 minutes left. And when they hiked the ball, Haskins, he could have walked in there. There was no effort and no fight left in Ohio State. And that was pretty much the glaring thing here was, Michigan wanted it more. And I'll say this too, the way Michigan handled this game, and I kind of said it last week too, they got to handle this game every year like the way they did, and against Michigan State. That's a whole nother thing for another day too. But then they have to take both those games as serious as this. A lot of that too comes with the leadership from the players, especially the seniors. Aiden Hutchinson. There's the play going around the world right now where I don't know the Ohio State left tackle, but before the ball is even in Stroud's hands, Aiden Hutchinson's chucking him like a soft pillow. And Hutchinson, if he goes out and balls out in the Big Ten Championship Saturday and he takes care of whoever they play in the semifinals, he is making a very strong case for the number 1 overall pick. God bless his soul. It's probably the shitty Detroit Lions, but this 42 points against Ohio State. Maybe it's sad, maybe it's not, but this is, I think, the most points they've had against the Buckeyes since 1946. That goes to show something. They've been close. They had 39 in 06, but that's just been the way things go. Michigan's usually the one taking the blows, not giving them, and they get that. And I'll ask you this question too. I heard this elsewhere. You kind of flirted with it a second ago. Apologizing to this team for all the crap we've given it. With Jim Harbaugh and his November record being a problem going into this month. Now he's 4-0 in 2021. And with all his shortcomings, with that win over Ohio State, is all forgiven. Do you forgive Jim Harbaugh for all of the shortcomings now because of that win Saturday?
Well, I don't want this to turn into like a bragging situation or even like I'm a know-it-all, but I think, and you'd have to back this up, I've been a Jim supporter for a long time.
Right.
The only time that I ever really got annoyed with the program was in 2020 when it was just COVID year, despicable football, losing to bad teams, taking Rutgers to 2 or 3 overtimes, whatever it was. That was really it. Like, yeah, I wanted to beat Ohio State, but I just thought they were so far ahead of where we were, and I didn't know if that was necessarily a Jim problem or if that was just a Big Ten problem. There's a lot you could equate it to, but for me, yeah, he saved any negative thought that I ever had to him. He saved it, and I personally, and we'll talk about this in a minute, I don't think he's done. I don't think he's done. And if the crazy part is, this team, I think they had aspirations of this all along. And us as fans, we only set up for them to beat Ohio State. That was our only aspiration for the year. Just beat Ohio State. We've said it. We tweet about it. We post about it on Facebook. Just beat Ohio State. That's all we wanted. Just that. I've heard fans out of their own mouth. I've heard plenty of fans. Okay? Some that I'm friends with, some that I don't even know. I don't care if we lose every game. I just want to beat Ohio State. This team doesn't have those aspirations. Matter of fact, I don't know about you. I haven't heard a single post about any player. I haven't heard any talk. Doesn't even feel like we won a Big Ten East championship. I don't think they give a shit about it. I don't think it means anything to them. They beat Ohio State, and now they have, like you said earlier, they're moving on. They're on to Iowa. There's a title to be won, and if you win that, you're pretty much a lock for the playoff. And then at that point, we're talking big time discussions. So I don't know, man. I just to answer your question in short, yeah, I think Harbaugh's forgiven. And you know what's really telling? You would have been okay, and I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying you as in the Michigan fan. And I'm even including myself in this. I'm not, and I'm a Harbaugh supporter. We all would have been okay if he got fired after last year, wouldn't we have?
Yeah.
How sad is that? He was 1 year away. He was
before,
1 year away.
2018, I was okay with it.
He was 1 year away. And we almost fired him. We could have fired him. Matter of fact, he was willing to come back to Michigan on a pay cut. On a pay cut when nobody believed in him. He comes back to Michigan and puts this effort up, this team, this energy, this focus. Dude, we don't deserve Jim Harbaugh at this point. Like, truthfully, the shit that he's had to go through in order to get to this point isn't even fair. And I understand there was a hype train around him when he got hired, but dude, we're lucky. We are blessed. And you could say this, you could, I understand if some Michigan fans are going to be like that because again, this is one win, but it's like, well, what happens if he goes back to it next year? I get it, but the Big Ten isn't easy, and we'll get to more of this later because I have a lot of thoughts on this specific topic and Jim Harbaugh and his future and all that other stuff. But Ryan Day, regardless of what you think about him, he's a good football coach. Ohio State's a great program. Michigan State just signed their coach for 10 years. They like him so much. He's been there for a cup of coffee. Penn State, they just signed their coach to a 10-year. Those guys have to win too. Everyone needs to eat at the table. It can't just be Michigan. And if your expectation is for Michigan to go undefeated from here on out, turn this pot off, go root for another team. It ain't happening. I'm promising you that. They're not going to go undefeated for every single season the rest of the year or the rest of our lives. You have to be okay sometimes with dropping games. You have to. You have to. But I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, I mean, for me, not much else to really go off of here. I mean,
answer your own question. Sorry, are you okay?
Gotcha.
Is Harbaugh cleared? Is he good now?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, going into there was that feeling too, where most likely we ain't gonna get this W, right? But now that he did, it feels like the season is now a solidified success. It's now confirmed. Losing to both Michigan State and potentially Ohio State the same season with showing so much promise on the back end of the year. Again, it would have been heartbreaking for sure, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about a win, and so absolutely, he's forgiven. I'm not thinking about wanting to get rid of him in 2018 anymore. I'm ready to move on, and hopefully they just can keep building off of this and make sure that this wasn't just a once in every 10-year thing. String these together. Going next year to win in Columbus, that's something we haven't done in quite a long time as well. So that's going to be a challenge, and we obviously are long ways away from that. We don't know who's going to be returning. We don't know what the roster is going to look like. We don't even know what the recruiting class is going to look like. And so when we get there, we get there. But again, let's just keep building off this, and there's potentially 3 more games left in this season here. So take one at a time. And again, the theory, the idea of this team being different is going to be proven again this weekend. And then we just stay 1-0, 1-0, 1-0.
Yeah, one more thing before we move on from Jim Harbaugh. So Andrew posed this question on the live show, and I understood why he did it, and it was a great question, and it needed to be answered. But like truly, and I remember saying this to him, I was like, I'm done with this negativity because I think we can win this game. And Harbaugh is, I mean, if and we didn't, but if he would have come up in a loss on Saturday and it was close, like just like this, I still don't think I would have wanted him fired. It just and I said this, I have a hard time rooting against the guy because I truly believe he wants to be the coach of Michigan. Like it's
Yeah.
just and after this past Saturday, I'm as all in as I've ever been, and I've always sort of been all in. So, um, any other news and notes before we get to liked and disliked and more of?
Well, nothing else about this game. Obviously, when we get into the next couple segments, whatever, we have some of the college landscape to chat about. But regarding Michigan Ohio State, I'm going to keep it in the back of my head for the time being right now, and I'll reflect on it after the season. But as of right now, I'm looking at Hawkeyes. But
Yeah,
but anyway, so I'll start with what I liked, I guess, right?
yeah. What
Uh,
did you like?
so what I liked is, again, I kind of touched on it earlier in the beginning of my opening remarks, was this needs to be uh, handled like how we handle MSU games, because I liked our tenacity and I liked our will and I liked our effort. Uh, you know, out for blood, and I want to see that again uh, every single time we play these rivals of ours. And I mean, hell, even when we get to the Big Ten, I mean, hell, I mean everybody, right? But that's what I like. That's what I like seeing was, we're gonna put you on the ground and we're gonna step on your neck.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here in a second. I didn't really say anything ahead of time. I was kind of thinking of this as I was doing this.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say mine, and then I'll give you some time to think as I'm doing mine too. But because this was the last regular season game, give me something you liked throughout the season too. Okay, but I'll
Okay.
real quick. So for me, what I liked from the game, first off, the offensive line play, the run game, the pocket protection, literally the pure dominance of an offensive line, and that equates also to my dude Hassan Haskins, 28 carries, 169 yards, and count them up, 5 touchdowns. Um, what I liked over the course of the season, and the season's not done, but the regular season is wrapped up, and regular season awards are being handed out. Um, this is the best set of captains that I've seen at Michigan in a long time. I thought the captains were huge. I thought that this team set a precedent from the very get, and they stood up to it. They took on every task. Looking back over this schedule, it truly was a historic gauntlet if you really think about it, and doing things that this Michigan team hasn't done in a long time, and these captains are so in charge of that. And obviously, the coaching staff was huge too. What did you like?
Uh, I kind of predicted, or I had in hopes in preseason of week one. And over the course of the season, I just really admired these guys as the way they handled adversity. And week one, when we were doing our preseason of the schedule, and I had mentioned that previous Michigan teams, man, when there's a domino effect, snowball effect. So when something bad happens, they can't get themselves out. They dig their holes deeper, and they just didn't do it. They didn't allow it to affect them this year. They turn the ball over, they get a defensive stop, they score, or they make up for it. Okay, just like in this game, Cade McNamara, we go down the field in the run game, we score a touchdown. Uh, they get 3 points. Or we stopped them on, I think, a 3-and-out, if I'm not mistaken. We get the ball back, we go down to the red zone, we throw a pick. They didn't panic. They didn't let Ohio State, get on top of them. Okay, they were down 10-7, but you know what? They kept fighting back, and then again, like I said, they never stopped looking back after they got past that 3-point deficit. And so throughout the course of the season, man, that was the one thing I was worried about, especially with this the road schedule that they had. I didn't think that a lot of this was going to happen, but again, they rejuvenated this program. And I think a lot of credit needs to be handed to Mike Hart and getting these running backs, this running back stable together because, you know, this is the first win that Mike Hart had against Ohio State, and it came as an assistant coach. So I also like that. I love that hire, and I thought Mike Hart, it was just an underrated, not talked about enough assistant coach.
100% agree. Something I disliked from the game, several things. I disliked that I didn't get tickets. I disliked that I didn't outright pick them to win when I felt as confidently as I did. And I disliked that I didn't give Jim Harbaugh enough credit. Over the course of the season, I disliked that we couldn't finish against Michigan State and have a chance at an undefeated season because I think this team was actually capable of it and deserving of it too. What about you?
What I didn't like about the game, well, I mean, it was honestly kind of hard to find something I didn't like. I mean, outside the interception the interception in the red zone. I mean, what can you really not? I mean, they scored on literally almost every drive they had the ball. They stopped or they slowed down one of the number one passing offense in the country. And granted, the stats are going to show that they got the yardage, but guess what? We play a game where we count the winning and losing determining by the scoreboard and not by the yardage. So, but over the course of the season, the one thing I didn't like, and we kind of grew out of it in the last month of the season, was the quarterback roulette thing going on. That's probably just going to be something we're going to be dealing with while these two quarterbacks are here. Still probably going to be on the edge of my seat when we see that rotation happening. But it is what it is, man. And again, yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, dropping one NEL when we were clearly the better team, and that one got away from us. But that was just one game, and Mel Tucker's not going anywhere. He inked a huge deal before getting piped the following week, and so next year we have little brother in the big house, and it's time to repay the favor.
Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it. More of. For me, I could have gone on all day. I had so much that I want to see more of. First off, and this dates back to week 2 when we hosted Washington at home at night. So many people that I knew attended the game. Things that I was seeing on social media, being able to watch the game. The energy at Michigan Stadium seemed like it was just different. It was renewed. It was loud. It was like people were saying, like, it was deafening. They brought that energy and some on Saturday. Dude, if we become a home field environment like that, because so many people have always said, like, yeah, Michigan Stadium's not scary to go to. They're not loud. All the noise leaves and they sit down there. Dude, if we become an environment that people fear to go to, like Happy Valley, like Columbus, like Clemson, like Tuscaloosa, like the Swamp, dude, oh boy. That's huge. Also, championship level football, reduce turnovers, pound people in the mouth. That was literally Michigan's MO this year. We rarely turn the ball over, and we punch people in the mouth. That's championship level football, dude. Our balance, like this year we averaged 226 passing yards and we averaged 224 rushing yards. We are literally the most balanced team. And people say we can't throw it. All we do is run it. Like, well, that's weird. The stats show differently. The stats show we do both equally. And I have on my notes blue pants, but in general, the uniform combinations have given a small spark to this team. It doesn't seem like much, but it is. We're undefeated in blue pants. And at this point, it's like, I think Harbaugh just understands, like, we need to spark this program up. And the biggest thing I want to see more of is everything you did this year. and some to prepare to beat not just Michigan State next year, but Ohio State too. Both of them. And if you come up short against one, it is what it is, but you got to get at least one every single year as you compete for titles, Big Ten titles, like we're going to do Saturday.
Oh, yeah. More for me is just the November success and building on it.
Absolutely.
It's outside of 2015 and 2011. Michigan has finished the season on a 2-game losing streak or more, and I mean that hurts you. I mean, we got to finish the season strong. You got to get that momentum going into the following year. 2011 they win the Sugar Bowl, and 2012 they swapped Denard to running back. They put Devin Gardner under center, and it seemed right, but it didn't seem right at the same time. And that season, 2012, it just didn't end well. You lost to Ohio State and Columbus when you should have be clearly in control most of the time, and then you drop the Gator Bowl against Jadeveon Clowney and the Gamecocks. And then when you get to 2015, they finished that with a blowout win against Florida. And 2016, they followed that up with a pretty solid season, but they ended 2016 on a bad note. They lost to Ohio State. They tried to make a small comeback against Florida State. They didn't come away with the W. So by winning the Big Ten championship Saturday, that can propel you into the offseason just in monumental ways. Recruiting, who decides to come back, who decides to leave. And, even if they win Saturday against Iowa and then they lose the semifinal, or if they win the semifinal and they lose the Natty, I mean, that's a peak that Michigan hasn't reached in quite a long time. I think even with a loss to that at that level, I think that can still give you enough momentum. I'm just saying that losing 2 at the end of the regular season and the bowl game, whatever, it just does not bode well. And one final thing too that I wanted to see more of over the course of the season was just more fan engagement, like you said. Michigan, let's be honest, a lot of teams, don't really fear going in there too much, and a lot of that it comes from Ohio State. Obviously, this past Saturday, not as much as we've seen recently, but when Ohio State fans come to Michigan to watch the game, there's a sea of red, right? You can definitely tell who's who in the crowd. When you watch the game in Columbus, you see a yellow dot, in like one in every section, partially because, let's be honest, the Buckeye fans are assholes. And are you going to go to a game in Ann Arbor where a Michigan fan is going to offer you a beer and a steak dinner, or you're going to want to go to Columbus where, you might go back and you're going to have tires slashed or your car flipped over or on fire? You know what I'm saying? And that's a little of exaggeration, but obviously the crowd's more hostile. Now, I'm not saying Michigan fans got to be, life-threatening, but, be more energetic. Get into the game. If they call for a maize out, wear a maize colored shirt or jacket or something like that. Obviously, they aimed for that on this past Saturday's game, but I mean, it was a blizzard at times, so not everyone has that specific type of clothing, but you know what I'm saying. So those are really my just points of emphasis to go on in the future. I mean, we got to make sure that this is going to be a part of a routine here, not just going to fall back into 10 more years of getting our ass kicked. We got to up the ante.
No more Ohio State. They're in the rear view now. They are in the rear view. We are on to bigger and better things. Yes, I said better things. Michigan, Iowa, Big Ten championship game this weekend. Michigan's currently favored by 11, at least from ESPN that I was reading before we started potting. This is obviously their first Big Ten championship appearance. Michigan averages 37 points a game, gives up 17. Iowa averages 25 points a game, gives up 17. So a little bit of a difference there. Michigan has 1 loss to Iowa's 2. Keys to victory. What do you
got? Keys to victory. For me, it's taking the build of the Ohio State game and implementing it here. And what I mean by that is be aggressive, make a statement here. Iowa is a kind of a Walmart version of what we do. They have a good defense statistically, and they want to run the ball. But the thing is, the difference between our schools is we can run the ball successfully. They at times have problems doing it. I think that we need to be balanced. I think that's my key. Be balanced, okay? Iowa, I think in the one point in the season, I was watching an Iowa game briefly, and at the moment I turned on the TV, I heard something about I think it might have been like week 4 or week 5. They were at one point like 7 or 8 games in a row having a streak of having an interception. Okay, so Iowa, known for being more of a tight end U, they do produce a lot of good defensive backs. So we'll see if they stack the box or not. I think this is just going to have to be just a balanced attack for Michigan and punish these quarterbacks. Iowa's quarterbacks, Spencer Petras and Alex Padilla. I don't want to jinx myself with what I said last year about Rocky Lombardi at Michigan State, but these guys, not that threatening. Make them uncomfortable. Make them throw the ball. If we get up on them, I was going to have to sling the rock. They're not good at doing that. So get on them early, be balanced. That's my key.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would like to see a very similar game plan to what we had this past Saturday. Come out, establish yourself up front. That's the first thing. This team's very stingy on the defensive side, just like us. And you actually nailed something on the head that I was going to say. This is literally a lower version of what Michigan is, and that's not an insult to Iowa. They just haven't been able to do it like we have this year. I mean, we've been more successful at doing pretty much everything that Iowa does. Get up in their face, keep the pressure on when they're going to throw Aiden, Ajabo. You got to run the ball. And don't be afraid to go over the top on this team. Because you have aspirations to continue with this. You got to start showing on film that you're going to go over the top more often. And they did a good job with that against Ohio State. I think they had 4 or 5 25-plus yard plays. So they definitely showed some big playability, and they have that. Don't outcoach yourself. Don't outcoach yourself. That is a key to victory here. This is a game you can win. This is not a Goliath of an opponent. You are favored in this game. Come out, do what has won us games all year long, and I think at the end of the day, we'll be holding a Big Ten championship. I think we are the better team, the superior team, and what we've done this year works, and Iowa's not too good to stop it. Can Iowa win this game? Absolutely, Iowa win this game. But I think more so Michigan can definitely lose this game, and I think they have to make sure that isn't the case.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have a prediction?
Well, I guess like you said, an 11-point favorite. I did a lot of common opponents. Looking at their stats and their scores, and I guess that really has to do with my prediction, but I'm thinking this could be a 15 to 20 point victory. If it's a blowout, I think I might be shocked, but I think it's a 2 possession type of game. Iowa has kind of had this weird voodoo about them, especially at Kinnick Stadium at home against Michigan. 2016 dropped the egg there, dropped the L there, and then 2011 dropped the L there, and we both those years we had the better team. There's just, I don't know, it's just something weird about them. But I think being at a neutral field, I think that kind of goes away, and I think it propels the Michigan to about a 15 to 20 point win. And I'll get to the comparing the scores here. I won't go through every one of them. I guess maybe not, but they got common wins like we do, and by just looking at that, I get a little bit more comfortable just because of we did it a little bit better than they did, and so yeah.
Yeah, I think that the neutral site is actually an intriguing part of this game. First off, I don't think it's going to be neutral. I think Michigan is going to take this place over. Um, Time will tell. We'll see, but it'll be an interesting aspect of the game. But I think ultimately Michigan is just probably too much for Iowa in what will probably be a low scoring game. I like them 28-14. Um, I don't think Michigan has the success that they've had against other teams, dropping 30 or into the 40s. Uh, Iowa is way more stingy and I mean, they're pretty disciplined, but I think they'll do enough to get some wins here, and they might even get a late pick to even make this a bigger win. But I like 28-14 for the Wolverines to win the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kind of crazy we're at this point. I honestly thought that. I'm making it seem like I'm pessimistic because I truly wasn't pessimistic, but I thought we'd be on a bye week this week, and then next week we'd be talking hoops and start moving towards our bowl game. But it's like we're in the thick of it. I mean, we're
Mm.
this is unreal. I mean, it seems surreal at times, but Michigan's going to play for a Big Ten championship on Saturday, and you're going to be there. How excited are you?
Absolutely, dude. I'm very amped up. For obviously a lot of everyone listening doesn't know, but yeah. So yeah, I'll be there with some friends. I'm trying to get our boy here Jeff to go, but obviously everyone's real life schedule kind of gets in the way sometimes. But I was fortunate enough to where my wife is going to be at home and taking the kids to birthday parties while I'm out partying in Indianapolis. But I'm super excited, man, and you know it's hurting my wallet, it's hurting my bank account, but I feel like this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm going to take advantage of it. The national championship is in Indianapolis, but that will put me in the red by thousands of dollars because of just the national championship at stake. But going there, it's a 3.5 hour drive. I'm just super hyped, and we'll be on the 50-yard line. And the best part about it is I got the tickets from Buckeye fans. Uh, one of my bosses at work or whatever is an Ohio State fan, and him and his brother-in-law have been buying tickets to this game ever since it was instilled in 2011. And if you're Ohio State, you know, you're confident that you're going to be contending for the title every year. And if you so happen to not make it, you can sell the tickets to somebody. And um, fortunately for me and unfortunate for them, they sold them to me, but they're good eggs, really. Well, at least my boss is. I guess his brother-in-law is more of that typical Buckeye, Michigan, is dirt bags. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm absolutely, man. I'm hyped.
Well, let's get to the mailbag here. We got a couple of questions. What do we got here? All right, this one coming in from Jamie Lato. Jamie, thanks for listening. Go Blue. Is Cincinnati's win and in, or does a one-loss Notre Dame, one-loss Big 12 champ Oklahoma State bump them out?
Who's first?
I mean, I go ahead and go.
All right. This is an intriguing final weekend here of pre-playoff stuff. I think Oklahoma State is going to be number 4 in the country if they beat Baylor in the Big 12 championship. I think Cincinnati's going to get bumped out. I've said it all year that Cincinnati is going to be the one to get hosed if you think it's unfair if they do get knocked out. And that's just what comes with the territory of Power 5 and non-Power 5, okay? Oklahoma State's going to be in a battle with Baylor. Baylor's not a team that you can sleep at the wheel with, just like Iowa isn't, And I think Oklahoma State wins. Uh, they have one of the best defenses in the country, and that's hard to do in the Big 12 because damn near all 10 of their teams have just awful defenses traditionally. And so I think Cincinnati's going to get bumped out. Now, what was the second part of the question?
I think they were trying to say would they get bumped for a Notre Dame or Oklahoma State, which you already said Oklahoma State, but
Right.
I think by saying that you're implying that Bama's going to beat Georgia.
Oh, well, I think that if Notre Dame wins, well, yeah, I guess I should say that. I should say, okay, yeah, I apologize. I did part A without thinking about part B. So if Georgia beats Bama, I think that Bama. I don't know, man. I think Bama will move to 4. I think Cincinnati is just screwed either way. To be honest with you.
Let me just give you two scenarios
Yeah.
just to make this easy.
Right.
Georgia beats Bama.
Right.
Michigan wins.
Yeah.
Cincinnati wins. Oklahoma State wins. Do you think that's the Final Four?
I think it's a very good possibility. Yeah.
I'm of the liking that if those four teams all win, that is your Final Four. If Bama beats Georgia, that's huge because then you got to start crossing hairs. Is it Cincinnati? Is it Oklahoma State? One of those two teams. Now, obviously, if Oklahoma State loses to Baylor, that opens up for either Alabama, Ohio State, potentially Notre Dame, but I find that very hard for them to throw Notre Dame in without a head coach. I don't know. There's a lot there, but I hope that answers your question, Jamie. We have more to talk about here in a second. Moving on here. I'm going to ask two questions in a row after this question, but let me skip to go here. Jamie with another question. Did the media get it right naming Mel Tucker Big Ten Coach of the Year? I'll let you start.
I don't think it's not a good choice. I thought that Luke Fickell or Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State could have easily been
No,
the better.
this is just Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Oh, sorry, Big Ten Coach of the Year. Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Should have been Harbaugh.
Should have been Harbaugh. Now, when it comes to the national, I'm sorry. I know he didn't get coach, national coach.
Yeah.
I thought when I saw the report, I thought he was named national coach of the year, not Big Ten. But sorry, in terms of just the Big Ten, no. I think Harbaugh, after this past Saturday, I think he deserves it. To be honest with you.
I don't disagree with what you just said, but I actually think Mel Tucker does deserve it. I went back and listened to our season preview for Michigan and Ohio State. And though Michigan was bad last year, we expected them to be slightly better. We didn't expect them to be this good. We both predicted roughly 8-4, 8-5, somewhere in there. But we both predicted Mel Tucker and the Michigan State to be terrible. We did. We thought they would be a train wreck. They weren't. They started the season unranked, and I think they got to like 4 or 5 straight wins before they even got to the top 25. Like, people weren't giving them any credit, and they were beating a lot of teams and played really good football until the very end. Obviously, they ran up against a very good Ohio State team, but I thought Mel Tucker deserved it personally, and they beat Michigan. So, with that said, I mean, trust me, don't get me wrong. I mean, Harbaugh beating Ohio State was huge, but I think ultimately Mel Tucker has set themselves up to be really good. I'm going to read these next two questions, but this is going to basically lead into our whole next topic here. So this one comes in from Jen Fisher. What's your take on Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to coach LSU? Okay. And then you actually put a question in here, obviously probably just as a discussion, but giving Brian Kelly credit putting Notre Dame 10+ wins a season, does he leave a bad taste in your mouth for skipping out on the next job before the postseason? So obviously we're going to talk a lot of Brian Kelly here. We're going to talk a lot of coaches. Let's start with Brian Kelly. What's your opinions on him leaving Notre Dame for LSU?
Well, I think LSU is. I mean, maybe there's some disagreements out there. I think LSU is an upgrade in terms of a program. However, the way he did it was pretty shitty, and it's not the first time he's done something like this. I know Brian Kelly's respected amongst his peers. He's respected amongst the media. I mean, for the most part, with his colleagues and peers, right? But and we'll get to that in a second. But I just skipping out on potentially not being completely out of the playoff race, right? There is a chance that Notre Dame could be a top 4 team for the playoff if some things go their way. And so by having a press conference today with an LSU pin on his chest and purple and gold or purple and yellow suit and tie, I just think that's just pretty shitty, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see why you think that and what you're saying. Unfortunately, it's not his fault, if that makes sense. The way that college football has positioned their rules, regulations, the way their season maps out, early signing day is in like 2 weeks. Why? The season's still underway. Like, why is it even an option for a coach to be out on the road recruiting right now? And if you have aspirations of leaving a program, he was there for 12 years. He literally went I think he went undefeated, 1 loss, 2 loss. Those are basically his 3 records. He won a lot.
Absolutely.
He won a shit ton of games there, and put out a ton of players. And Brian Kelly, obviously, despite what I think of him as a coach, like I wouldn't want him coaching my team. I just like the way he acts. Sometimes can be very childish.
He's a little troll. He's the Bob Stoops of Notre Dame. He gets you to the boat. He can't captain. Okay,
Yeah.
he'll get you there to the promised land, but you're going to get waxed by Bama or whoever they go up against. I get what you're saying about, it's not necessarily his fault the way the system is, because that was going to be one of my questions. I'm like, is a coaching carousel situation really the coach's fault, or do we just have a system that's broken? And Joel Klatt defended him on Colin Cowherd the other day. The
Yes.
thing is I still think that it's shitty. Yes, it is shitty, but maybe it's more of a two-way street. And the video that got leaked of him having his meeting with Notre Dame for 4 minutes before dipping, I don't know. It's not a good look on the coach, because they're deciding to leave. And again, if we're going to have early signing day where it is now, that has to get bumped somehow. And we need to have, maybe kind of like the NFL, we have just a period of time where nobody can leave, or this is when you can leave. Because I like to talk about Lincoln Riley here in a second too. We have Lincoln Riley dip set to USC.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, going over to the NFL just for a quick second, I've always been very pro player. Like, whatever the player wants to do, I've always pretty much backed it, because the ownership won't blink an eye if they want to cut you, fire you, whatever they want to do. It's literally, they'll do it. There's no holding back. Well, with college, there are no players that are getting paid by the university, so to speak. So really, the most polarizing figure on campus is always the head coach. And if Brian Kelly were to be winning 4 and 5 games, they'd have fired his ass and not thought twice of it. So why are we so upset that he left after 12 years of a program? I understand he left during the season because his season's still alive. But I think we need to be mad at LSU. Like, LSU, you couldn't fucking wait a month? Why are you calling up Brian Kelly? You know what I mean? It's just the way the system, it's ruined. The system is ruined. If you want to contact, let's say, so the Raiders, for instance, the Raiders have been without a head coach for weeks now. John Gruden resigned. They can't contact other teams until the tampering period's over, which isn't until January. There needs to be some sort of regulation in college football. This is going to keep happening because let's move right into it. Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma as soon as that team loses, and he knows at that point they're not a championship contender. He leaves and goes to USC, which is a massive hiring for them. I think that is a absolute home run for them. It's going to probably revive them right away. I think they'll be good right away. I've already seen decommitments from Oklahoma and other schools, and all of a sudden, all across my Twitter feed, there's UFC commits, which I don't ever see that. So I mean, I think it's going to be huge for them. What's your opinion on Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma? Similar, or are you kind of like, well, his season was over? Like, what's your deal there?
Well, in terms of where the programs are at currently in the stature, their prestige is. This is kind of a lot of people think it's a lateral move or maybe a little bit downgrade. That's what a lot of people. That's what some people are saying. They're saying it's a lateral move or it's a little bit of a downgrade. Now, I think lateral move. Okay, but where USC is right now, if we were talking about the early 2000s, this is for sure an upgrade. Regardless, though, he goes to USC and instantly he has a 5-star quarterback that's committed to him in Oklahoma is now headed to USC amongst a few others.
Obviously, that's going to happen, though.
The Pac-12 isn't as strong as it used to be. I mean, outside of Oregon, you could find USC in a couple of years where Pete Carroll had them. We don't know, but it could. It's prep for that. You got $110 million. USC is buying both of his homes in Norman for $500,000. I'm reading it right now, and they're buying him a $6 million home in LA. And now he's got unlimited. Now he's got unlimited private jet 24/7. So he made out in terms of perks and everything like that.
So
but,
real quick.
Yeah, what?
$110 million. Okay.
Yeah.
You just said USC is buying both of his homes for a total of $1 million. They're buying him a $6 million home in LA, and unlimited use of a private jet. You just said all that, and you want to tell me that it's an equivalent job? No, brother, it ain't.
Well, in terms of the school, the program, not the bathhouses that you can go in and have a happy time, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, we both agree that the system has got to get revamped somehow, and maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It just where I come from is I just feel bad for the kids because now, those Notre Dame players are going to be playing their remaining games without the guy that, I mean, a lot of the times the assistant coaches help recruit, but a lot of times, sometimes those kids commit to the coach, not the school. And you just feel for them a little bit. And I felt especially for those dudes that were left hanging in Cincinnati to get piped by Georgia, whoever it was, when he left for Notre Dame. So, yeah, I don't know.
I get it. Don't get me wrong. I truly get it. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to beat these coaches up because it truly, at the end of the day, it's a business. And these players can go in the transfer portal whenever they want. Nobody bats an eye. I mean, these players can leave for the draft and nobody bats an eye. Nobody's truly committed to one another. And that's one of those things where if you feel your coach is truly committed, like I feel about Harbaugh, why would I attack him and want him to leave? I mean, I don't want to circle back to Harbaugh, but it's one of those things. If you feel like you have a coach and you feel like they're committed, let's try and make sure everything's right before we go and fire him. Because truly, like, if we fire Harbaugh at the end of last season, who knows where we'd be right now?
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to this, it's like LSU, they've seen an opportunity. They don't have a head coach. They announced weeks ago they were going to be letting go of theirs. And they put out a massive offer. And Brian Kelly told Notre Dame, I don't even want you to match it. Don't bother. So he didn't want to be there. Sorry. Like, I'm okay with it. It is what it is. It sucks. Like, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, do you think he really would ask yourself this? Do you think he leaves for LSU a month early, 3 weeks early, whatever you want to say? If he actually thinks he has a national championship team at Notre Dame, I don't think he thinks he has a chance. They got beat by Cincinnati. Cincinnati's better than, and Cincinnati's a team that everybody wants to leave out apparently. So,
right,
it's just a weird situation. Oklahoma, I'm intrigued to see who they're going to get because that is a good job, as you said. That's a good job. But it's also a
they already
job
fill
that's
that
going
hole,
to the
though?
SEC. Who do
They
they
already
fill
filled
it
that
with?
hole? Didn't they get Clemson's DC?
Venable? I know that's the rumor, but I haven't seen
Oh,
anything
okay.
official on that. That is
Oh, okay.
that's like the
Okay.
top candidate they want.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to be the DC for them at some point, right?
Okay. And real quick too, before we go on to the next thing that you got planned, you know, I I just I might come off with a bad flavor towards Brian Kelly just because he's Notre Dame and that's a rival of Michigan,
I
and
get it. I get it.
I just like beating him because he gets when he gets taken care of on the field, or whatever, he turns purple and he yells at his quarterback. That's my favorite thing to see. You know, that's fantastic for me. I love it, injected in my veins. However, now that he's out of South Bend and he's in Baton Rouge, got more money to play with in terms of recruiting and stuff like that, more resources. Because with Notre Dame, obviously, you have a little. I don't know the details. I'm not a recruiting expert or guru, but you know that the recruiting is a little bit more aggressive down there, and so we'll see what he's really made of. If he's going to be able to put up, you know, because obviously, like with Jim Harbaugh and Stanford, that was a great run because you're only allowed to recruit certain people, certain players because of grades and all that, you know, stuff like that. Kind of goes with Michigan a little bit, but obviously Brian Kelly's got a lot on his plate now.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge factor, I'm sure. And he actually was. Apparently, he's been quoted saying Notre Dame can't win a national championship. This the way that the system is, it won't allow them to. They
Yeah,
just
if those dopes would just join the Big Ten and save everyone all the damn heartache, I mean, come on.
yeah.
Ay.
But really, that's all I got. I was gonna say we should talk college football, but or playoffs, but we kind of already touched on it with the question. I didn't realize there was a question on that. Um, I think a lot of this will sort itself out next week, and we could sit here and argue about it for 25 minutes about all the possibilities, but really, we're 1 week away from really knowing. So we'll save that for next week and react to the reaction of Michigan, Iowa, and what the playoff sits. Because at this point next week, we're gonna know who's the Final Four. So, all right, that's a wrap. Michigan hoops plays North Carolina tonight, so we'll shut her down. Anything else? Anything else to add?
Not much. I just gotta say, if you're out there, you're a Michigan fan, I post them on the Real Talk page from time to time, and I'll probably do it here once we get off the air here. But go on YouTube and check out my page there at Maze Rage 86, MAIZERAGE 86, and now that Michigan is got the blood pumping in my heart again and my soul is singing, I've been starting to pump out some more hype videos and stuff like that, and I got one going here for Indy this weekend. So if you like watching hype videos, if you don't like watching hype videos, who gives a shit, right? Just if you feel like it, go on there and check me out.
It's good stuff. I've seen the last two, Ohio State and the Iowa one. The Iowa one it's a very unique hype video, and I dug it. I dug the way it started and dug the way it went through. So go check it out. Make sure you post a link in the Real Talk page so everybody can see it. Last thing, go blue. What a great season this has been, win or lose on Saturday. And one last thing I wanted to say. Oh, that's right. Fuck Ohio.
Go blue, buddy.
Real Talk, we're out.